Okay, hello and good afternoon, everyone. I call the Honolulu County Elections Accessibility Needs Advisory Committee in order. Welcome, advisory committee members and others. Your participation in this meeting is to help the county and the state to have feedback about the information that's being given to us, to the committee with needs of the disabled this year's elections. As background, the state enacted Act 1, vote by mail by 2019 primary elections, and we have this is the third election. I would say the third cycle for our elections. So we're having this for the primary and the general. So we're fortunate to have this meeting with the county as well as with other counties in the state. But this is wonderful that we have this meeting for today. I would like to do a roll call. There are some members here from our committee. First is Ann Lemke.
Hello, I'm here.
Yes. Next is Brandon Young.
Hello, I'm here.
And then myself, Donald Sakamoto, as the chair. Okay, next. Okay, right now, I would like the committee members to introduce themselves. Just a brief subject of what themselves, what they want to say to the committee and others. So I'll start it off. Donald Sakamoto, I'm the chair of this committee. I've been a voter since 1980 when I was 18 years old to present. I used to vote with a sighted ballot. I could see the ballot. At this time, I'm legally blind. And I look forward to having accessibility for those with disabilities like myself, who are blind, to use accessible technology to vote freely, independently. So I would like to pass it on to Brandon Young.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Brandon Young. I guess I've been serving as vice chair since our last meeting with Donald. And I think you were sworn in 2020, right, Donald?
Yeah, you were sworn in 2020 and you were a board member at that time.
Yeah, so yeah, we're here to create a committee to direct the Office of Elections for City and County of Honolulu to make things more accessible for people with disabilities and other special needs so that they can have access to private ballot just like everybody else has. And so I'm here to give my input and to try to make sure that the committee is best of its abilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brandon. And I'd like to introduce Ann Lemke, our newest board member. She just got sworn in today. And Ann, can you tell about yourself?
Sure, I'm retired from Windward Community College. I have been very interested and involved in voting rights advocacy since the 1990s in El Paso County, Texas. Some of us, those of us who had disabilities, I was part of a class action lawsuit to require the county to find an accessible way for us to vote. And we did have some success with that lawsuit. And our point was to simply have access to a secret ballot. We were flexible about how that would happen. And one small anecdote that I can tell from the 1970s when I was very new to voting, young, and I think it was the election of 1976, and I was living in Austin, Texas, and I went, my dad was going to serve as my reader to mark my ballot, but an election worker, the election judge, heard us talking, and we were obviously disagreeing about the candidates. Now, in our family, it was okay to disagree about stuff. My dad would have never mismarked my ballot, but the polling judge said, young lady, would you like for me to mark your ballot for you? Because you do want a fair and impartial ballot. So yeah, it's very important to me. And one more thing, I was on the first committee that got it to act together in this state was in Kauai. Just saying. I hope they're still meeting and functioning.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you. Before we go on, I would like the staff to read the procedural meeting requirements.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a traditional in-person meeting, so committee members must be physically present to participate. Members of the public will be allowed to participate remotely using WebEx as a video conferencing platform or here in person. Oral testimony will be accepted both remote and in person on all items on the agenda. Just a couple reminders. As a courtesy, please turn off your cell phones for the duration of the meeting. Video conference from a quiet location if possible. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and will be limited to a 3-minute presentation on all items. For those of you that may be joining us by telephone only, I'll identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public on the city's website.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. All right, we're gonna do the next part of the agenda is approval of the minutes. This was circulated to the board members as well as the public. It was done on June 30th, 2022. Would I have a motion from the board?
I move to accept the minutes.
Okay, do I have a second? Yeah, thank you, Brandon. Second, anybody second?
Why don't you second, because I wasn't on the
Okay.
committee at that time?
Right, I'll second the meeting, Donald Sakamoto. Are there any questions from the public regarding the minutes? If none, any discussion, Brandon?
No, thank you, Donald, for.
Thank you.
Okay, then I would like to approve the minutes then as done. Thank you for those who did the minutes. It was fantastic. I used to do minutes, not easy. So I'd like to approve the minutes by saying aye.
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 Nay. Okay, I approve the minutes as done. Okay.
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, next part. Okay, we're gonna do nominations for vice chair of this committee. I'm the chair. We haven't had a vice chair since the last meeting. We did have one, but she resigned. So I would like to open the floor to nominations for vice chair. Do you have any nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Brandon.
Okay, Brandon, you nominate yourself. Any other person on the board wants to be vice chair on other nominations? Are there any other nominations? If not, I believe if there's no nominations other than Brandon, then by acclamation, Brandon is the chair, vice chair.
Congratulations.
We'd like to have public testimony before we do that. Are there any public testimony on Mr. Brandon Young's appointment for vice chair? If not, I would like to, by acclamation, have Brandon Young as vice chair of this committee. Appreciate Brandon for stepping up.
Thanks.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Brandon, for
Okay, next thing on the
stepping
agenda-
up.
Okay, next thing on the agenda. Okay, we're gonna have a next part of the agenda is informal presentation. We have on the statewide elections accessibility needs advisory committee, Mr. James Gasho. Mr. James Gasho, I know him personally. He sits on the committee for the statewide. office over there as the vice chair. And I would like to introduce him to do a presentation for us.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, James Gashel here. I am Vice Chair of the Statewide Elections Accessibility Needs Advisory Committee. Our Chair, I'm bringing you greetings from our Chair, Patricia Morrissey. And she's a really good leader of our statewide committee. I'd also say, extend an invitation to all of you to attend our statewide meetings. They are available and they are on Zoom. You can get on the mailing list to the email list to get the agenda, and that includes a link to the meeting. If you just send an email to elections@honolulu.gov, I'm sorry, at hawaii.gov. And they'll put you on the list for getting the regular agenda. We meet monthly. This year, we started in 2022, I believe it was, and met approximately quarterly. But this year, in the run-up to the 2024 primary and presidential election, we've been meeting monthly. And so our meetings are at 1:30 p.m. the first Tuesday of each month. Occasionally, we'll vary the schedule some depending on the needs of the staff or whether we have schedule conflicts for the members. But we're pretty rigorous about sticking with that first Tuesday of the month schedule. And I believe we'll be doing that at least until, well, we probably won't do it on November 5th, which is the first Tuesday, which is election day. So I would say through the October meeting, we'll be doing that, but our staff at the Office of Elections will be a bit busy on November 5th. So there's that. So you're all invited to attend those meetings, and just like at this meeting, also have the opportunity to give testimony. Just a word or two about myself. If you know me, I can't say anything in a word or two. So it'll be more than a word or two, but I took note of the different experiences that you guys gave in the introductions, and so I'll mention that myself. So I've been blind all my life, and I started voting in 1968. And back in those days, and I was like Ann, I was on the mainland. Back in those days, you didn't really have much in the way of accessible options to vote. It was take somebody with you. And this didn't always work the way you would hope that it would. You always went to the polls, and back in those days, we had neighborhood polling places. And you never knew exactly what you might run onto. And in almost every single election cycle, somewhere in the country, or in our state, it was Iowa, where I lived, somebody would have a fracas with the election personnel about how they were going to vote. And generally, it was that they wanted somebody to observe the vote. This is a variant of the situation that Ann reported, where at least somebody was attentive and said, I'll mark the ballot for you. In these cases, they wanted poll watchers to observe the vote. And, we all wanted to vote privately and independently. But the law didn't really address that in a big way until 1982. I became Director of Governmental Relations for the National Federation of the Blind in the 1970s. And so we started to look around for legislation that we could use to address this problem. And periodically, back in those days, the Voting Rights Act had to be amended. The Voting Rights Act was originally passed in 1965. Don't remember the cycle of reauthorizations, but one of them was 1982. In the 1982 amendments, we got a provision that is still part of the Voting Rights Act and also part of our Hawaii law that gives any voter who is blind or has a disability the option, the opportunity to have an assistant of the voter's own choosing. Those are really the important words, of the voter's own choosing. There are two exceptions. The assistant cannot be your employer, and the assistant cannot be a person from your labor union, a labor union representative. I was at the meeting where this was all enacted, and it was quite interesting to watch the senators on the Judiciary Committee do this. This is the law today, and it's a needed law, even though the technologies have changed. You know, now in 1982, there was just no technology that would enable a person who's blind to go into a booth and cast an independent private vote. You really had to have an assistant, and the important words were of the voter's own choosing. I remember the first time I went to vote after that was enacted, I went by myself deliberately to see how it would work out. And of course, the poll watchers approached me, and I said, "Which of you is the Democrat judge?" And I said, "Fine, I choose you." And the other one went away. And so I demonstrated for myself that that's how you can vote with assistance of your own choosing. It wasn't until 2006 that I first cast a vote totally privately and independently with accessible electronic technology. And the way that happened was that you all remember that we had trouble electing the president in 2001. In 2000.
2000.
2000.
Yeah.
And we knew at that time that there would be changes to the voting technology because you remember the hanging chads
Oh,
in
yeah.
Florida? Well, so people started to talk about the possibility of electronic voting technology. Well, that's right up our alley because electronic technology can be made accessible. And so we got a provisions, many words, in the law called the Help America Vote Act. That's law today. That's a federal law. And of course, we now know that when you come to vote here in Honolulu or wherever you vote, if you go to a polling place, you have to have an accessible voting device. The law for that comes right out of the Help America Vote Act. I was 60 years old before I could cast a vote privately and independently. How about that? Now we can. Now technology has changed since then. And our whole situation in Hawaii has changed since then. So I'll kind of move to that. In my own experience, I lived in another vote by mail state, which was Colorado. And their system wasn't accessible at the time. I had to have somebody mark my ballot. It was like going back in time. Uh, uh, Not going forward. Now, of course, you could. I went to the polling place. They still had neighborhood polling places, and I did do that. But once I moved up to the mountains in Colorado, I didn't really have an accessible voting device anywhere close by. And so my wife became my accessible voting device. Wasn't my preferred voting device necessarily, but even though I think we agreed politically on the matter, but I just as soon vote privately and independently. That was a step. So vote by mail for me was a step backwards. Move to Hawaii. Move here, 6 months later, the legislature enacts vote by mail. I think, oh my God, we're gonna have a step backwards. And initially it was somewhat of a step backwards. I well remember communicating with Donald Sakamoto and others. This was at the time of the 2020 election, which was our first election under the vote by mail law. Nobody really knew, and wonderful people down here at the elections division, but nobody knew how we were supposed to be able to vote. Couldn't figure it out. I mean, we got our ballots in the mail, of course, and you could have somebody fill it out and send it back in. You could do it that way. Or you could come down here to the Honolulu Hale and vote, or Kapolei Hale, either one, and you could vote on the machines. But that was during the pandemic. And they were having COVID down here at this building. And I'll tell you what, I did not want to come down here and vote. And, and so, you know, but we insisted, and the law covered this at the time, that we should be able to get our ballots electronically, and mark them and send them back in. Law didn't cover sending them back in electronically. It only covered getting them electronically. And so the state office of elections had worked this out. They had a vendor that was creating an electronic ballot that you could get on your computer and vote it, and then you'd have to print it out. So blind guy, not a lot of us don't have computers. So, I mean, have
Printers.
computers, we don't have printers, because what's the sense really in having a printer? It's important to have one, but a lot of people don't. And so sending it back in that way was really not a fully accessible method. We go to the legislature. Legislature passes a law saying we can return the ballot, can actually mark and return the ballot electronically. So that's good. So we've got a great law. It's now down to the implementation of that law. Our statewide committee has been working on this problem. And this will be the first, well, not the first election where we had electronic ballot return, because we had that in the 2022 election. But let's put it this way. The way the system was implemented, it didn't pass the Donald Sakamoto test. And what I mean by that, and that's a compliment to Donald, not all of us were born or blessed with all the great computer skills in the world. And so unless you have a system that is fairly straightforward to use, not too many steps to go through, it's intimidating and discouraging to try to use it that way. So our committee, the statewide committee, has been very active in working with the state and our vendor enhanced voting systems. And this year, we will be rolling out for the primary election and certainly the presidential election, a new streamlined voting system that I'm going to commit to you today will pass the Donald Sakamoto test. He will be able to use it because it will be more simplified and more straightforward. And if it doesn't, we'll keep working on it until it is that way. Because what we want is for voters with accessibility needs to have a straightforward, friendly, simple to use, accessible and secure voting system. And we will have that. If we do, I predict we'll have the best accessible voting system for people with accessibility needs in the whole country. We are one of only a few states that actually have the law that says we can return our ballots electronically. Most states do not have that. Even many states that have the option to receive the ballot electronically and of course mark it, but many of them are like we used to be, where you couldn't return it except you had to print it and mail it back in. So that's been our biggest priority in the we've started we were appointed originally in 2022. And so we were looking at the run up to the this year's primary and general and presidential election. And we said, what can we do that would have the greatest impact initially? And that was to create a streamlined and usable electronic voting system. I hope you all will participate in using that. Now, just a word about voter registration, which also is part of the law to register to receive an electronic ballot. You need to check this because everybody who has a print disability is unable to use the regular printed ballot by their own affirmation has the right to register to receive an electronic ballot. And before the primary election, you should check your voter registration to be sure that you are registered to receive the electronic ballot. You won't automatically, now you let's say it this way. If you voted with the electronic ballot in 2022, you should still be on the list to receive your electronic ballot by email. It comes from the county, so from this division, and you get an email with the ballot as an attachment. It would be a good idea to do yourself and to encourage other people to check your voter registration to be sure. You don't have to newly register. You have the option to go to the registration webpage and update your registration. And I tell people, I emphasize this because, a lot of us registered to vote before the electronic option was available. And so you need to take some action to get that registration updated. By law, you don't have to do it every election cycle. It should be retained for future elections, but it's always a good idea to check it. I also want to mention that in the state now, the state has added a track your ballot option. And I don't think I saw this on the City and County of Honolulu's webpage, but it is available on the state Office of Elections webpage, elections.hawaii.gov. And there's a track your ballot link. And you can sign up. And I did this and encourage people to do this for each election cycle. Now, I hope that's retained from the past ones, but I guarantee you I'll go on and check to be sure that I'm signed up so that I know when I can expect to receive my ballot. And I know after I've voted my ballot and returned my ballot that the county has received it and that it is in the process and has been accepted, et cetera, et cetera. You can see the steps. It will alert you. I think the options are by text message, certainly by email, that your ballot is being moving through the process. If you don't do that, you're just kind of hoping that somebody got it. Well, I like to know that somebody got it. So remember to track your ballot link. Other things that the statewide committee is doing. One of our major initiatives, you know that all the ballots every year have one or more, usually, I don't mean every year, every other year, have charter initiatives. If you've ever read those initiatives, and sometimes statewide constitutional amendments, if you ever try to read those, well, you might be able to read them, but the question is, can you understand them? It's an accessibility issue for a lot of people. As those initiatives, charter amendments, constitutional amendments, at least we should have a plain, simple to understand, clear explanation of those amendments in our preferred language. And there are a lot of language options available. And so the accessibility needs committee is working with the Office of Elections to make sure that that happens. We're also making sure that all of the materials prepared and circulated by the State Office of Elections are in accessible formats. And so for the county committee, you need to make sure that is done. I'm sure that it would be. I want to say about the county committee, I looked at the elections division website, and you're doing a lot better than the state is as far as the accessibility of our website. Now, we do have a statewide election accessibility webpage, but try and find it. I mean, I can tell you how to do a Google search and get it, but I'll tell you what, if you go to the Honolulu Elections Division website, you're going to see a great big link, here with your screen reader, a great big link for accessibility. And that takes you to the webpage about the work of this committee. So I just want to tell you, whether you know it or not, you're doing something right to make sure that is very much available. And it kind of gets me to the end of this presentation, other than responding to questions, to just say, I think we are, Hawaii, we're one of 2, possibly 3 states with committees of this nature. Citizen advisory committees around the subject of accessibility. And wow, that's a very important responsibility that we have when we serve on these committees. Our state committee, of course, is appointed by the governor. Our local committees are appointed by the mayors. And this helps the people that do our work in the Office of Elections or the Elections Division to get a better understanding and a better focus on accessibility. Vote by mail states are great, but enacting laws like that does add some accessibility challenges that I'm proud to say our state and our city and county are addressing. So unlike the situation that we had in 2020, where, you know, really nobody, honestly, it was the first election we had under the new vote by mail law. So legitimately, we had to learn a number of things. But we got these committees enacted into the state law. Now we have, this is the second election under our belts. We should be, we are clearly moving toward making our state one of the best states for accessible voting, I'm sure. And having these committees is part of making that happen. Donald, I think that's all I really wanted to say, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Gassion. Okay, I'd like to open the questions for the audience virtually as well in person. For Mr. Gasho, if you have any questions, how would they, on virtual, would they raise their hand and to know, or how would we do that?
Is someone monitoring
Yeah. The virtual.
the feed there, the virtual?
Okay, nothing online right now. Anybody in person? If not, any board members have questions for Mr. Gasho? Okay, James, thank you for your
Well,
presentation.
thank you. I appreciate it and look forward to meeting with you again and inviting you also to participate in our statewide committee meetings.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gasho. Okay, next on the agenda would be Rick Spadilla. He's the Honolulu person for the elections. I would like to him do a presentation on the 2024 primary in general. Thank you, Mr. West.
Hello. Committee members, aloha, Friday. My name is Rex Cadilla. I'm the election administrator for the city and county of Honolulu. One of us in every county, the Honolulu. I just wanted to provide you folks just kind of a breezy overview of the election ahead of us, the 2024 election. So, it's really just the third election cycle that we've conducted by vote by mail. The first one was conducted in 2020. As James said, during the pandemic. 2022 was our very first, what you would call a midterm election. And again, this will be the only second time we're running a presidential election in the state of Hawaii. Preparations for this election is underway. So one of the very first steps that we undertake is candidate filing that began on February 1st. Right now, we're in the process of sending out the yellow voter cards. I'm sure you're all familiar with this. The yellow voter cards confirm voter registration. Tells you, if it's vote by mail, all systems are go if you receive the yellow card. If you don't receive the yellow card, then there's an issue with your addressing or delivery of mail. So you need to contact us if you don't.
Have they been mailed out yet?
They've been mailed out today, actually. That's great
Okay.
news. I have a number for you. We have 474,991 yellow cards inducted in the United States Postal System as of today. So a large amount by far, obviously the largest in the state. So the other thing too, just dovetailing with the message the Office of Elections sent out earlier this week, is that if you receive a yellow card for someone who is not residing at your home, but not at this address, pop it back in the mail and we'll take care of it from there. Make sure that we don't mail a ballot to someone who no longer resides at that home with that address. Again, contact us if you don't receive your yellow card. So these are the foundational beginnings of the elections for us, right? Again, we began candidate filing for the upcoming election, and it ends on June 4th. June 4th. The other thing too, and I think possibly at the risk of telling you what you already know, I know James is familiar with this because he hears it all the time. You know, we work with our partners there at the state of Hawaii to implement every election. The state of Hawaii, and if I did be very general about this, is that they're primarily in charge of the counting system, the vote counting and the counting system. And additionally, so they're in charge of everything like ballot printing, the alternate format ballot that we talked about, the AFP system, the ballot tracking system that we have, and they do the larger, more extraordinary voter education programs. We, on the other hand, do all the boots on the ground stuff. So we're in charge of voter service centers, mailing and receiving and validating those mail cases, voter registration and absentee voting. So a lot of the first contact, direct services to the voter. One of the things I also want to highlight for the upcoming 2024 election is some of the resources that we have. First of all, we have our website. I think James made mention of that. And on the website, we have, of course, all the dates and reminders. We try to make the website and all the information with regards to elections also be supported in other languages. Since for a long time we had Chinese, Ilocano, Chinese and Ilocano, right? And then we've added Tagalog as another additional dialect. This time around, we're going to be adding also Hawaiian. So that's a new wrinkle. So you get to vote using a Hawaiian ballot. We are working with the library for and print. So for disabled materials, we've got the radio reading program. We have the dates and deadlines, and then all the information regarding our voter service centers and places of deposit, drop boxes, location and hours. We will also be having a language interpretation services at our voter service center. This involves remote video and audio interpretation for voters who do not speak English as a first language or require translation services. That's part of our efforts, as well as remote video remote interpretation for American Sign Language users. One of the big things that James alluded to is this is going to be the very first year we're going to be having a voter's guide put together by the State Office of Elections. And in that voter's guide will be photographs, statements by the candidates. But in addition to that is, we hope will be plain language explainers for not only the constitutional amendments, but charter amendments. And so we'll make that available to the public. It'll be mainly online with a small number of them printed, I believe, to be delivered by request at our state libraries. So fast forward to later on in the year, the primary election ballots will be mailed on or around Wednesday, July 24th. The general election ballots will be mailed in by Friday, October 18th. And, we don't like calling them election days anymore because it's rather an election period. So the primary, however, it's the last day of voting, as we like to call it, is Saturday, August 10th. The general election is Tuesday, November 5th. One of the things that we have, you folks have asked for and we have implemented is on all the return mail envelopes, there will be a hole punched to serve as a tactile area so you can touch and feel where to place your signature if you choose to vote by mail. So that'll be on every return ballot envelope.
Can you, when it gets closer to the election, can you show us a sample?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, we'll have thousands of them for you to try.
Yeah.
Let's travel a lot. Always cyclists.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is that, just to repeat what James mentioned, ballot tracks, we strongly encourage the voters, Honolulu voters, to sign up for ballot tracks. A link will eventually be put on our website, but it's also right now on the state's website. What that system allows you to do is receive notices from this system, whether it be by text, by phone, or by email, that a ballot is on the way to your home, and that has been received. After you vote and return it, is received. The one of the important things about the service also, if there's an issue, for instance, if you have a mismatching signature, that's a great system to understand that, hey, you might want to have to call your respective elections division and say, hey, what's wrong? Well, why didn't my ballot was not accepted? It may be that you forgot to sign it, or your signature mismatches. It will let you know on how to remedy that. We have also, and this is just a Honolulu thing, we have what we call the online ballot replacement system. A link will be on our website. And so it's an accessible site for you to request a replacement ballot. A lot of people make mistakes as soon as they receive them. So a convenient way to get a new ballot mailed to you, or you can pick it up here at the Honolulu Hale, is to request it online. We find that that's a very important service, and that we want to make sure you don't do anything like white out any errors that made, because that might cause an error in reading your vote. We also have another system called Text to Cure. This is a means of using your smartphone to correct or remedy a signature mismatch. Again, this is another accessible site. It's another means of doing it. It's a means of correcting a signature mismatch electronically. Again, we're the only county that's going to be doing that, but it's a feature that we've had since 2020. We find it very useful. It's also very useful, like if you're receiving a mismatch notification and you're far away, you're on the mainland or you're overseas, you're able to remedy a mismatch signature almost instantaneously. We also have the new enhanced voting system, which James mentioned. We hope it does everything it's promised. One of the things that it now is able to do in a much more elegant fashion is to kind of pre-clear individuals who the identity, so signing the ballot envelope is not necessary. So you provide some credentials and your materials are printed out, and by looking at them, we understand that the signature is not required for that particular voter. And you're right though, James. Once you ask for an alternative format ballot, until you tell us you don't want it, you are retained. You stay on that list.
So right.
Yes.
As far as signing up, we go to the city and county website, or is that through?
Or you can just give us a call. Just give us a call.
Okay.
Yep.
Right, can you provide that?
It's 808-768-3800.
Easy.
Yep, easy. Just ask for me. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. We also have the places of deposit. We had 15 in the 2022 election. We are pleased to announce that we're adding a new box in Hauula. We looked at the map and saw a little puka there, and we wanted to plug that home. That's a long stretch of road without drop-off services, so we want to be able to provide that. Just a quick rundown, so you can drop off your ballots at Honolulu Hale, Hawaii Kai Park and Ride, Wailaiki Neighborhood Park, Kanewai Community Park, Kalihi District Park, Kanichan Alimanu Neighborhood Park, Neil Blaisdell Park, Waipahu District Park, Asing Community Park in Eva, Kapolei Hale, Waianae District Park, Mililani Park and Ride, Sunset Beach Recreation Center, Kaneohe District Park, and Kailua District Park. So that's I think we've covered the island pretty well geographically. So if you want to drop off your ballot instead of using the United States Postal Service, that is your option. It's a very popular program. I think we average about almost not quite, but about a third of voters cast their ballots, do so using that method. Just note that the boxes are accessible in accordance to the park or facility hours. So, like I wouldn't advise going to Kalihi District Park at 2 a.m. But go during park hours, right? The other means to cast your ballot is via the voter service centers. Voter service centers are established by law at least 10 days prior to the election. We have 2 full-time locations, and you guys know where they're at, Honolulu Hale and Kapolei Hale. So Honolulu Hale, it's out in the courtyard, and in Kapolei Hale, it's conference rooms A, B, and C. Right, they're open on weekdays from 8 a.m. to 4:30 and on the last day of voting, 7 to 7. Right, so here's the date. So it's for the primary election, it starts on August 10th. It's election day, no.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, it doesn't start on election, that'd be a polling place. It's Monday, July 29th, and then goes all the way to election day. And then for the general election, it opens on October 22nd, it goes all the way to election day. It's every day except Sundays.
And these service centers have an accessible machine,
Yes,
right?
they do, they all do.
If we were to choose that
Yeah.
method.
Correct. Yep, they do. Every one of them do. The other thing that we've done, we first did it in 2022, and we're gonna do it again. Again, to provide geographic accessibility for our voters who prefer to vote in person. We will be having 2 pop-up locations, and we'll be using the same ones again. Yeah. We'll be having Kaneohe District Park. It'll be open for 5 days from Monday, July 29th to Friday, August 2.
there you go, Donald.
So you get to walk in there. And then after that, we close the shop and then we move it to Waihiwa District Park to capture the folks up there in central Oahu. And that runs from Monday, August 5 to August 9th. Now, just a reminder, these pop-ups are not open on the last day, right? So what happens is we grab all that staff and then we bolster the complement of individuals serving the public at our Kapolei and Honolulu Hale locations. Because
Do they have the accessible machine?
absolutely,
Yeah, the pop-ups.
yeah, the pop-ups,
Yeah.
the pop-ups have all the equipment and services that you would find
At a polling.
at the
Here.
full-time
Yeah.
voter service centers, but just less,
Uh-huh.
right? For the general election, it opens on October 22nd at Kaneohe District Park and goes all the way to October 26th, closes, then we move to Waihiwa District Park from Tuesday, October 29th and to Saturday, November 2nd. Again, not open on the last day of voting. So make sure you don't go to those locations because they will not be open. The thing that we want to emphasize also, and this is a message we're going to try and get out to the public, we're going to magnify this, is don't come on the last day. We are open, I believe, 13 days prior to each election. There's a lot of time to come in. If you're not registered to vote, register to vote and vote. Don't wait for the last day. The difference can be incredible. Say for instance, to give you an example, the line typically on the last day of voting can be as long as 3 hours long. But if you come the day before, it's 10 minutes long. So big difference, right? So don't wait. We're open for a good long time before that last day. Come before then.
So we have to wait for.
Right, yeah, exactly. Well, one of the things is that if, they aren't able to release results until until all the service center close statewide. So anyway, that is kind of a overview of the 2024 elections, the services that we plan to provide. It's it's an ongoing process, again, working with the various committees to make our election process even more accessible. You know, the goal is to, as the Help America Vote Act says, you know, to allow accessibility so individuals can vote independently. You know, it's great to hear that in 2006, James, you were able to vote independently. First time. Right?
Privately and independently.
Privately, independently, and you know that's an ongoing process. We may not always hit it out of the park the first time around, or even maybe the second time. But like I said, it's an ongoing process. It's great that we have committees such as yourselves, as well as the folks up in the state, to work together with us, have this feedback loop, tells us what works, what didn't work, how can we improve, and make this process and franchise even more individuals to the voting, our electoral process. So that's my presentation. If you have any questions.
Should we open up to the public? Any questions from the public, virtually or in person? None. None. Okay. I'd like any questions from the board before I ask my questions? Yeah.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, thank you, Rick, for your presentation. I just have some questions concerning the persons with different disabilities. You have people that have, I met somebody with no arms. And can you explain how do they have a stylus that they use with their mouth?
The system provided to us has the capability, the sip and puff system. It does have the capability. I think for the individuals who use sip and puff, of course, they bring their own devices.
Yeah.
But it's I believe they use a mini plug to actuate the system. But the touch writer, it's called the touch writer, which acts as kind of a marking device for the ballot. It's capable of using the sip and puff. It also uses I call it jelly buttons for individuals without fine motor skills. Right, so it's just buttons to be able to navigate the ballot. Additionally, you can use a pair of headphones to navigate the ballot by sound.
Yeah, I've used with the accessible voting machines technology that I've used in the past quite a few times.
Yeah.
Usually there's a combination of using the headphones, but there's also braille markings
Right.
on the machine itself, which those of us who use braille, that's just not absolutely imperative. Someone who doesn't use braille can follow the spoken instructions and do, but it's nice that if there's both.
So once the ballot is marked, the great part about it, obviously, when you use the system, it protects against overvoting, and it informs you when you have undervoted as well, confirms your vote, and then once everything's okay, the ballot is marked and then inserted into a ballot scanning machine. So the great part about it is that all the votes cast by an individual using the touch writer, it's like any other ballot deposited into the machine.
And our state does require paper ballots so that there's no question about the voting machine error.
It's right, yeah, and as opposed to before 2022, I believe that they had a verified paper trail. Now everything is on a paper ballot.
Okay, thank you. So question on the, before I used to go to the voting places at the schools and whatnot, they had drive-through. Some people may not be able to go in, but could they do still in the front of Honolulu?
Right, in front of the whole, what we need to do in that case, of course, send someone out. We have a button out there to call an election worker outside to help provide the service. It'll be, again, it's we unfortunately, the touch writer itself is not portable. We can't take that thing out. It's just not a portable machine. But we're able to bring a ballot out.
You can mark it.
We can mark it there, yeah.
And then concerning the signature, I understand you can put an X and then put a witness.
Correct.
Wait, how does that work anyway?
I think it's exactly how it works. According to state law, if you leave a mark, have a witness, and then we will accept that as a validated piece.
And how do you check on that, the witness ahead of time to make sure it's valid?
We would take it as a prima facie that someone has witnessed the marking of the ballot return.
So you don't have to register the witness?
No.
Okay. And then in the past, I used to call you because you used to be on the Mike Buck show. And I thought, before we had that technology, James, I would call Rex to say, or maybe Glenn, ballot. I wasn't quite sure. And then one time the ballot wasn't received. I mailed it 10 days in advance. And I got the call on the Saturday. And it said, this is Sakamoto, we got your ballot, don't go to the school. So I was glad that that
Well,
happened.
now you have ballot tracks, so
ballot tracks.
you don't have to have me call you.
Yeah. But if those who aren't able to do ballot track, they still can contact the office.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
how do we sign up for the ballot track? How do we?
It's on the state
The
of Hawaii
state website,
website, right? My understanding it's accessible.
yeah,
So, yeah.
it is.
The great
Okay.
part, again, the notification process is pretty flexible. Phone call, email, text.
And I think the link says track my ballot,
Track my.
and it's on elections.hawaii.gov.
Oh, okay.
And it's
Elections.
right there, it's easy to find,
Okay,
track my ballot.
okay.
That's great. One more question.
Yeah.
You know, we have a sensitivity for persons with different disabilities. Like myself, I have a blind white cane. And Rex, you were very good in asking me for assistance. But how's the sensitivity training with your employees to make sure that they don't grab the cane, they just ask for us like you did?
That's probably one area that we could probably benefit from additional training. I believe there was some discussion at the state level, at the state committee, talking about, getting our election workers more familiar and more sensitive. And that's something we've definitely welcomed, that kind of an opportunity. And not because, we could always, if we already know how to do it, a refresher is always beneficial. Because we do this just, once every other year.
When do you, yeah, exactly. When do you have poll worker training?
We actually, we don't have poll work, we don't use poll workers, a lot of the individuals working at our service centers, because it's not a polling place. It's
Yeah,
a service center, and the kind of work performed is kind of detailed work, but
so is it state
they're
employee?
employed by the city and county.
Okay,
And we
yeah.
use a staffing
City,
agency.
county, yeah.
Yeah, we're using a staffing agency to bolster our numbers. But
Do they ever have training sessions though, that for those employees?
again, no, we haven't had such as training sessions. Our leads probably more, our full-time workers are probably more acquainted with those with providing the service. But if we get a more broad-based training, or we can train the trainers, that'd be great.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
we're working on a little brochure that might be good for the, yeah.
And maybe possibly doing a video and then your place can watch it when they have some.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
We do that with the bus company.
Right. Yeah, we're a little, like I said, a lot of people kind of mistake the service centers as like the polling places that we had, your library or your school cafeteria. It's a little more complicated than that. And the reason why it's more complicated is because unlike a polling place, we can take any registered voter from throughout the county, and that adds a little bit of a tricky dimension to our work. You got to make sure that the person receives the proper ballot, that their status is correct, and all these other things. And so that's why we don't use the poll workers, but we use trained individuals at our terminals.
Concerning the postcards that you mail.
Yeah.
It says yellow, but we're blind and vision there. Would it be possible just to put a cut on the one side so that we know that that's coming from folks? Because most cards come in like
Yeah.
squares, so I do that on my state ID. I put the attention on the left side, that's the front, that's my ID.
Are you talking about clipping a corner?
Corner.
Flip the corner.
Might be helpful for the people are blind.
That's something that we could look into that for the next time. We just printed up 500,000 of them.
Yeah.
But it's something that we can definitely look at. I don't see.
I do
how
have
that'd
a
be
question
problem.
about the cards.
Yeah.
All right, so you get a card and let's say you don't return it. You still get your ballot, right?
Yeah, you still get your ballot. And
Yeah.
that's one of the big bugaboos of the system, right? And in a lot of ways, it's more revealing of the work. We all need is cooperative work between our office and the public to notify us of who's not there anymore. One of the, I guess the more common situations we find is when a child moves away to the mainland for college, but they continue to receive their election mail without informing us.
Hmm.
So of course, of course, we're going to be mailing that individual a ballot, and we will continue to mail that person a ballot until we're told otherwise. One of the things about the federal law is not voting is not a reason to remove you from the voter registry.
So Rick, if I'm a student, kind of old, if I go to college and I'm still a Hawaii resident, I can still register to vote. Which you can.
Yes, you can. And that would be a different, technically they'd be called absentee voting, but we use the same envelopes and the same process.
And how's your outreach? What, besides this committee, what efforts are this county, I don't know what the state is, but to get the word out to people out there in the community? I'm on the neighborhood board, Kaneohe, so I would like to have more information given to the boards ahead of time. And then news media, I used to go with the Mike Buck show, but he's gone now. But the good outreach to get the communication.
Well, we are looking to embark on a public awareness campaign for and that we're going to be working in tandem with the state of Hawaii, a complementary program, communication program to reach the public, make them aware of the upcoming election.
But that's harder than you might imagine. I read the newspaper online, but the average reader of the Star Advertiser over 50 or 60 or over. I mean, older people. And just what are you going to use? Social media to advertise, or because people don't leave with so much streaming media, people don't even always listen to local radio stations. So good luck having.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's to be sure, it's a challenge.
Yes.
A lot of people don't watch TV traditionally anymore.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't listen to the radio in favor of streaming. But we're going to have to explore all these things. Yeah.
I would recommend midweek because everybody likes to look at the seal items right there in the front. Just your picture over there.
Oh, no. Maybe someone who might not have
But
to.
if you need help, Rex, we would be willing to help you with that. To go out,
Thank you.
interview with KITV or anybody, KCHNL, whatever, as a special.
All right.
You give the word out.
About K channel or whatever. Cool.
So whatever I can do for you or this committee can do for you,
I appreciate that.
because I'd like to make sure that everybody has a fair chance to vote.
And we definitely look forward to that output, with communication to provide us training, more information on how to provide services in a respectful and appropriate manner to our voters.
And then too, conversely, ironically, so much national media is so negative about how election workers are treated and about intimidation, which doesn't seem to be a problem in Hawaii, but we want to highlight that, don't we? Let people know, look,
To highlight
that we're,
You want to be harassed?
no. No.
I'm kidding.
I didn't mean that. I meant that we are a safe and dependable place to vote. We live in a wonderful state to vote,
Absolutely.
and we don't need to be influenced.
I mean, in that regard, I think we've all seen the evolution of elections throughout the years. I mean, we were the most progressive in that respect. You can register to vote all the way up till the last day of voting. You don't need an excuse to vote absentee. We have the system is very, very accessible with vote by mail. There's a lot of facets that our lawmakers have considered to make voting and registering to vote really easy.
Any other questions? We'd like to go to the next agenda. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Uh,
thank
the
you.
next agenda-
Very informative.
Yeah, very informative. The next thing is on the agenda is to have next meetings and discussions, what we want to be on the next agenda. I was given I was told by July by the elections office here that that'll be their business time because they're preparing for the August primary. And then maybe after the primary, have another meeting, perhaps September, to see what happens in primary.
Yeah.
And then maybe December after the November. So
To debrief,
maybe, members, we don't have to decide what we want in the next agenda. We can work that out, but it's up to you. Do you have any suggestion on a possible month or date and discussion items? Brandon, my hand.
well, some of the national blindness conventions are kind of early in July, so later in the month, maybe,
Yeah, would June be okay or
or June.
June?
Yeah.
Mid-June?
June would be fun.
Okay, we
Okay,
could,
yeah, I think
maybe a Friday or something. I think
you said the 14th.
I'm not really sure of the calendar yet. I think it was June 14th. It was Friday. I'm not sure about the time. Any time would you prefer? We have to check with the availability of the room.
Yeah, it would just be when we could use this room for. I guess, we're also flexible on, the other members of.
It's good. Yeah, right. Also, agenda items, do you have anything in plan right now? Or you let me know. Anything?
Yeah, we'll do.
Okay, why don't we, if possible, shoot for a date of June 14th. I think that's a Friday.
Okay.
And we'll set the time and then agenda items, I'll work it out with you folks. And with the clerk's office also, and let's see what we can do. Maybe have some, another guest speaker. So wait for the state. And have them present their side. And that'll be wonderful because this is a wonderful process. This has been a long time since we had a meeting. 2022. And I'm glad that we have board members here today. And the people that put this together is wonderful. But any discussion on meetings maybe afterwards, the primary, September?
Let's do June and see
June, okay.
how that goes, and
Okay, we'll shoot for June.
but we certainly need something after the primary.
Yeah.
And before the general election, and there's no doubt.
Okay, let's shoot for, I believe it's
September,
June 14th.
maybe middle of September, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, middle of September sounds good, maybe on a Friday, because board member Young has, I believe you have that days off, right?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah, Labor Day is
Oh,
also
gosh.
the day too. It'd be good.
I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah, so let's go for June and then we'll work our way to after the primary afterwards.
Okay.
So are there any other? Are there any announcements? Or is there a motion to set for that date? Do you have a motion for
To adjourn, or
no motion to accept that date, June 14th?
to what?
To accept have a meeting in June on the 14th.
Oh, I make a motion that we have a meeting June 14th, depending on availability of this conference room, either at 1:30 or 2:30.
Okay, any seconds?
I'll second. Right.
Brandon second.
Sure.
Is it- yeah, I can. We're checking the date just to make sure.
Aye.
Okay, it's a Friday, that's the 14th, so are there any discussions? If not, we'll accept the date of June 14th and possible time.
Okay.
So do I have an aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No. Okay, it's been approved. So June 14th, and I will work the details and the time and
Okay. And any possible agenda
items.
items. I have some thoughts on that, but if we could, Brandon, how good are you with a laptop or some kind of portable? You know, it'd be nice if we could have demonstrate the website live and, you know, this is how you access this and this is where you find this and, you know, having it reading. I don't know, just a thought,
Okay, so do we have to put
just
this?
a thought.
Okay, we'll work it out, and yeah.
And you know, obviously, we can all do all those things, but it makes an impact if you're sitting here and you hear the computer speaking the information as Brandon is typing it in. He says, yeah, it's right here. This is where it is. I mean, I can,
I believe, right now, the sample ballot lets you choose, shave ice flavor or something, right?
You look away.
It's more than just shaved ice, it's other options.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But, just to clarify, Ann's right, there is a, demonstration, ballot. And you can mark it and see how that part of the system works. The last I checked, and I think it's still true, the return feature isn't
Activated.
demonstratable yet,
yeah,
but the ballot marking piece is demonstratable, and that is on the Office of Elections.
I just think
website.
the more that we can hands-on show and
I
tell.
absolutely agree with that.
That's-
And check with us if we can provide some help, somebody from the state, or maybe I could do it, or, you know, something like that for your next meeting. I think we could do that.
Okay, that'll be fine. Okay, any other discussion? No. Okay, okay, you have the motion? No, okay, any announcements? Okay, if there's no announcement, I'd like to just say some words. Again, thank you for everybody coming here. James Gasher for doing his presentation, and Lemke, Brandon Young for.
Well, Donald, I appreciate you facilitating this because I was beginning to wonder, am I really a member of this committee? And I am today.
It's wonderful. And for all the people, Rex, Glenn, and Takahashi, Rex Kodilla, and the rest of the staff here, thank you for having this meeting and putting it together. It's wonderful. I love this room. It's fantastic. I remember it was a committee room for the city council. But this is a wonderful day to have this important meeting to educate the public and to let everybody know that we have other ways of voting. This is our right and our independence to do it freely. So thank you for everybody coming. And
Thank you, Donald.
I'd like to motion to have the meeting adjourn. Do you have a motion?
I so move.
Second by Brandon. Say aye.
Aye.
It is, okay, aye. The ayes carried. We end this meeting but thank you for coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Donald.
Thank you, Donald.
You're welcome.